Part 2 of the reunion. Last night went reasonably under the circumstances. I did not follow the playbook exactly, but I think I did some positive things. When I got home last night, my wife had a long handwritten letter for me. It showed some ownership and remorse for having caused me pain, not yet to the point of admitting how, and some explanations on why she has behaved in certain ways toward me during our conflict. She also expressed, again, the fear of what kind of person it makes her if all that I have accused her of is true. In other words, she is not able to accept the meaning of what she has done and the guilt, shame that will come with it. There wasn't a real bottom line in her letter, but she was at least attempting to reach out and be a little bit open. So, after the kids were in bed, the science fair project is finally done. I sat her down and explained a few things to her. I have a right to be happy, have my own needs, and to have a rewarding marriage. I don't have to give up my happiness to provide for others. There are some basic, minimal expectations that I have for a wife: loyalty, respect, honesty, putting me above all others, etc. I stated that I didn't have these things now, and unless both parties were committed to the marriage, we didn't have a real marriage anyway. I stated that I was no longer going to put up with the disrespect, disloyalty, and dishonesty. I reiterated that her first choice was full NC or we divorce. I am not going to support her in my house while she carries on with another man. Her second choice is whether she wants to reconcile with me or not. She was calm and rational through all of this and was again able to show remorse for having made mistakes and hurting me. I then told her I had reconsidered my agreement for a fully private farewell. This started a lengthy discussion which was also calm and rational for a while. She revealed that she did not FaceTime with other man yesterday, which I have since verified per VAR, but has arranged to talk on Thursday. I expressed why I thought this was a bad idea. She explained that she felt she owed other man a face-to-face explanation and that she wants some degree of closure. And obviously, she wants to feel like she has some degree of control in a situation where she feels I am being very controlling. Given her demeanor at the time, I did not feel she was truly trying to play me. So, I suggested that she could have her FT and then follow it up with the NC letter, with my approval. At this point, the conversation and her demeanor changed. The WS monster showed up. It turns out that her version of NC was no contact for some indeterminate amount of time and that there was hope that one day she could have at least some limited degree of contact with the right controls in place. I think the plan to implement this version of NC was also part of the demand of private goodbye. She eventually tried to demand to be allowed to at least open some window of opportunity for contact in the future. I was ready for her this time. I told her point blank that this was totally unacceptable. Anger and tears followed. I held to this line and made it clear that total NC was the only option. Eventually, my resolve on this sunk in and she agreed to the terms. I am going to allow her to FT Thursday. She can't today because our kids are out of school before other man is home from work. She will then send an NC letter and hand over passwords. I know that most will not agree to allow the FT call, but I am okay with it as long as the end result is there and I have a way to verify that she makes it clear to him that there can't be any more contact. She may tell him of her feelings directly, she may blame me for everything, and she may try to pry out any feelings from him, but she could have been doing things these anytime she chose. As I'll be able to record the chat, I will know her intentions. She'll get to have a little victory, but I'll still get what I need. The conversation continued after that as we ran into the rug sweeping factor. Somewhere along the way I made a comment about her lying to my face, and she tried to play hurt and offended. She then said she wasn't going to be able to go forward if she was going to be repeatedly bombarded with accusations. She needs to start with a clean slate. I told her that that was not possible if we are to reconcile, and at some point, to some degree, she's going to have to own up to what exactly she has done. At this point she went back in minimizing the emotional affair mode. I was eventually able to cut off this line of thought and explain that the focus is on what action is needed immediately. Full NC. Everything else is down the road. So, maybe I did things a bit differently than recommended, and tolerated more conversation than was needed, but I believe that the NC message was forcefully delivered. She has given every indication that she wants to stay together and work on things. While she is hurting and conflicted right now, she seems to understand where I am coming from. She's not ready to admit anything new yet, but I'll have to patient on that. While she has agreed to meet my ultimatum for NC, she has yet to acknowledge that the level of relationship has been inappropriate. At one point last night, she blamed the issue on me not be able to relate as I don't have a separate best friend, confidant relationship outside of her. I told her the issue wasn't about my friends. I hope she can eventually get the idea. As for MC, I like talking to our counselor, who is really a psychologist who has a portion of her work with couples, but she is not the type that will give instructions on what to do. Her thing is to help each person understand the other's perspective, which was zero help for stopping an emotional affair. She seems to understand emotional affairs, but, until now, she has been really slow to view my wife's relationship as an emotional affair. I hear what you are saying, that it is not appropriate to have conversations with OSF that you wouldn't have in front of your spouse. But my wife has been living in that environment for so long, I am not too concerned about one more inappropriate conversation. I don't see how it will change anything, short of something drastic like her deciding to leave me. If I were in her position, which she shouldn't have been in the first place, I would want to have a final chat before signing off on the relationship. While it doesn't make it right, and certainly doesn't give me a warm fuzzy, I can understand the possibility of genuine, like no planned deceits, interest in a verbal goodbye and a desire to honor the other person. 2 decades ago, OM just simply stopped writing. That was his way of saying goodbye. I think my wife is sensitive by this history. I realize that I am taking a risk, but my gut tells me that my wife isn't planning anything drastic. The fact that I should be able to capture the conversation helps reduce the risk. Last night was a turning point. Everything seemed pretty normal in the evening, except that my wife was conveniently on the phone right after the kids got in bed, which seemed to me to be an attempt to avoid talking to me. I had asked her earlier in the evening what she and her BF had been talking about with respect to recent events, and my wife wanted to finish dinner first. In any case, when I asked again, she gave a short answer that BF was just being supportive and trying not to take sides. After that, I handed some reading material to my wife that I suggested she should look at before the final chat with other man. I gave her a couple of good articles explaining emotional affairs, a few example NC letters, a list of what should be on a NC letter. Well, things got ugly after that. Her WS monster came out in full force. I now at least recognize her mannerisms when she is in emotional affair, BS mode, trying to defend, minimize, push back, gaslight, etc. She did, what I gather is, the stereotypical WS throw everything at me fit. She claimed I was changing things from what I said yesterday, that I was controlling, that she didn't know if she could stay with me if this kind of unilateral behavior continued, that she's afraid that she'll never be able to tell me enough details to satisfy me, that this all started with me obsessing, that she now wants a third-party arbitrator. I have never seen her behave in this manner. At one point in the discussion, I was really ready to go straight to a D lawyer's office. The question of why do I want to stay with this person really sunk it. It is amazing what an emotional affair can do to an otherwise rational and loving person. I somehow thought she was different, or at least not as addicted as you all indicated. She has done a masterful job of acting pretty normal throughout the last couple years. I knew it was an emotional affair, but she had me fooled on how deeply entangled she really is. A couple of other questions. Do I talk to BF to see which side of the fence she is on? If she sees it as an EA, she could be very helpful. Do I try to get the password for the new email account? Should I also contact other man to be clear about the consequences of further contact? The alternating pattern is starting to show already. Yesterday she wrote me a nice note where she was applying for the job of being wife again, conceded the need for a probation period, and asking what I needed from her on a daily basis. In other words, lots of nice sounding things about wanting to work on things and acknowledging, in a vague way, that she hasn't been doing a good job. I would really like to believe that she is sincere. Alas, last night, she and BF were texting and I noticed that my wife deleted a few messages. I saw the word paranoid in an SMS from BF. I had the VAR on yesterday and just listened to a conversation between W and BF, which I believe was entirely about trying to determine if there is spyware on her iPhone. I think BF was doing some research for my W. Don't know if this is an indication that she wants to know what she can get away with, like planning to contact other man, or if W thinks that me monitoring her behavior is a breaking point for her. Hard to say whether her objection to be monitored is on principle or just trying to protect her secrets. I'm sure my wife realizes that I know more than what she has told me, since I am 100% sure of her having an emotional affair. Perhaps she is trying to figure out my sources of info. Ironically, at the moment I do not have anything loaded on her devices. In any case, it doesn't give me reassurance that she is truly prepared for full NC and to work on the marriage. In her note from yesterday, she opened with wanting some reassurance that I wanted to still be in the marriage. Apparently, I didn't give a very convincing answer during our fight the other night. Of course, right now, I am really not sure. I guess I need to convince myself that her true personality will eventually win out when the fogs lifts. Tonight, I am going to write down for her the terms for NC to make sure she understands what the consequences are for any deceit on her part. Deleting texts is not going to be on the OK list. I will also make it clear that if BF is helping hide things, I'm not going to be okay with BF. We have an appointment to go back to our MC on Monday. This was at my wife's insistence. My wife was actually playing the boundaries card the other night, as she thinks I am crossing boundaries by wanting to see what she is doing and saying. BS, I contacted a different MC, which I got a referral to from a sub abuse place, but wasn't able to interview her yet. We'll see what our current MC says on Monday. My wife indicated that she may want to go on her own. As for me, I'm not sure how to act at home right now. I am angry and distrustful and don't know what to think of W right now. On the other hand, if I show that I am angry, it will probably make things worse. Another unpleasant evening yesterday. After the kids were in bed, I updated and clarified the NC rules for her. Told that in addition to never contacting other man, she was not allowed to hide anything. No deleting texts or history, no undisclosed purchases or accounts, and I reserve the right to check on her activities. I also told her that BF will be added to the NC list if I find that she is enabling deception. Well, you can imagine that W wasn't too happy again. She claims to feel that she is being treated like a dog and is living in a prison. She's afraid that anything she says, does could be interpreted wrong or cause her to be in trouble again. Ironically, she is really sensitized to feeling disapproval from me. She said it is wrong that the fear of surveillance drove her to have a conversation with BF while sitting out in the van in the garage. Funny how she thinks her fear of surveillance is what is wrong as opposed to the fact that she feels the need to have secret conversations. I suspect that the garage chat was prior to the one I recorded about iPhone spyware. Don't know what she is up to, but it can't be good for the marriage. She is definitely contemplating what methods I have in place to monitor her activities. She is convinced of spyware on her devices and our home PC, and apparently is worried about conversations being recorded inside the house. She acts as though spying on her would be a showstopper for her. One hand, feeling like you're being watched is clearly not a nice feeling. I can sympathize a little, but what she should be doing is saying here, look at everything, I have nothing to hide. Yes, I will have to be patient on that one. With respect to iPhone and iPad, I have enabled restrictions so she can't use FaceTime and can't create mail accounts. She can still use the internet and access email via Yahoo Webmail. I have had success in the past in accessing emails from backup files, but this only works if she uses Webmail. If she uses the Mail app and then deletes the account, the backup files don't work. So, if she uses a new email address on one of her devices, I will eventually catch it. Of course, she can always borrow a device, use the library, etc. I'm not really sure how hard to implement spyware at the moment or what I should indicate to W about existing of monitoring tools. One hand, I could tell her to assume that everything is bugged, so she would be deterred from trying to go underground. But she could go elsewhere where I have no visibility. On the other hand, I could, honestly, tell her that there is nothing installed and I am just going to be checking her emails, SMS, and web history. This provides a moderate deterrent for her and will make her feel a little less like Big Brother is watching. If she decides to go underground, she is more likely to do so at home where I'll have a chance to catch it. W has not expressed much interest in going to see MC. Right now, I think is clinging to two things that MC mentioned early on. MC indicated, for affairs in general, that disclosure about the affair by the WS not required. MC has also indicated snooping is discouraged. Right now, I think W is hoping that MC will say that she won't have to talk about the affair, and that I should not be spying on WW's biggest argument now is about how much oversight I need to have on her activities. I'm thinking it is not good if W goes by herself at this point. I know I need to act in a way to express to W that I am going to pursue working on myself and my life. I have a choice and will move forward with or without her. I also think that there is benefit to showing her hope for the marriage and showing that I can improve as a husband. I'm not sure how to simultaneously show her how good things could be and that I could choose not to go forward with her. Have to think on this one some more. Maybe I don't have to show her anything positive until she seems to get the message that I might not choose to stay with her unless she changes her behavior. Right now, she hasn't shown me enough for me to want to make progress as a husband. Ironically, when all of this started and I wasn't as sure it was an EA, I used the discovery as a wake-up call and really stepped up as a husband. For a couple of months, I was really all in and doing everything I could to meet her needs. She loved it. Of course, she wasn't backing away from other men and now she had 2 attentive males. Anyway, it shouldn't be too hard for her to remember what I'm capable of. At the moment, I am working on my new 180 attitude, and I'm not planning to start any new discussions. Just do my thing and keep tabs to see if NC is being maintained. If she wants to talk, fine. Otherwise, I'll just go about my business. When the right opportunity is there, I'll see if she can offer any good arguments on her behalf. I think the person that my wife is capable of being is worth the heartache of trying to recover. We had a lot of good years together, and we have 2 awesome kids. So, there are compelling reasons to fight for the marriage. I think we have a good shot at rebuilding if we are both committed to the marriage. But, clearly, my wife is not really in the marriage at the moment. I have not yet found any signs of attempted contact with other men. But her behavior with BFF is a very bad sign. I haven't figured out what they are up to yet, but they are up to something. Perhaps, my wife has been working on trying to get her last goodbye in. The last couple days haven't had any drama, but there haven't been any positive changes in her behavior. She has been tired and mopey. Her and BF talk every day. Yesterday, wife went solo to appointment with MC. She didn't offer any details last night, talked on the phone with BF and went to bed. So, she is still doing all of her confiding elsewhere even without her regular dose of other man. Not too surprising as it is too early for the fog to have lifted, but it is still a clear indication that she is not any closer to coming back. Being in 180 mode, I am going to wait for her to bring up any conversation, and not show any interest until then. My wife has noticed my change in behavior but hasn't said anything yet. I'm doing my best to be pleasant, cheerful, but otherwise indifferent to her. No more I love yous or other reassurances that she seeks. For too long, I played along with the let's pretend everything is alright game. At a certain point, my wife will have to make a definitive choice about whether to open up about what has happened and try to make me as her top priority, or to continue to keep up the wall. Until now, I have enabled her to indefinitely delay that choice. Now that I've been awakened to how deep she was into the emotional affair, the clock is ticking as far as I am concerned. I can wait a while, but not for months. I think the best thing I can do to speed that choice is to make sure that she knows status quo is not okay. Really not okay. When I have acted normal in between rounds of fighting, disagreement, she convinces herself that things are okay. No more. She also needs to understand that I won't automatically be there for her. I have a choice to make, and it may not include her. I think the more real that appears to her, the faster she will wake up. In our case, the growing apart between us did occur prior to the emotional affair. That made recognition of the emotional affair more uncertain early on. We grew apart primarily due to lack of time together between work hours, kids, and no family support locally. On top of that, my stress level has been high for years, and I was not really available for conversation companionship a lot of nights. I just kept things to myself, which is damaging in itself, but I never looked elsewhere for a connection. I did not know it at the time, but my wife must have increasingly been looking to BF to fill some of the confidant role that I had sole rights to for many years. We were both quietly putting up bricks without the other realizing it. Then the big bricks started getting added to the wall when other man arrived. The discovery of the emotional affair was a wake-up call to what had been missing in the marriage and lead to a lot of insight, on my part anyway, on what we could do about it. It takes two to knock down the walls, and only one of us has been interested in that so far. The walls and windows analogy are a really clear way to explain how things should be a marriage. But she won't hear it right now. Honesty really is the biggest part of this. She may have gone down the slippery slope without fully realizing it early on, but she sure as heck has a choice on whether to lie or tell the truth. That she has chosen dishonesty and won't even admit that is the most painful part of this. Right now, my wife's biggest issues are recovering from the shock of losing other man, assuming she is done there, and control issues with me. She is resentful of the unilateral nature of decisions I have made and feels that I'm more like a parole officer than a husband. Her current issue list of grievances just tells me that she really doesn't get it yet. She is very far from wanting to deal with what my needs are, or what she has done. For my 180, there is part that is all about improving me for my sake regardless of what happens with the marriage. There is also a detachment aspect. For me, I can't move forward while my wife continues to rug sweep and deny that there was an affair. She has to wake up to reality before I am willing to work on recovery. She needs to understand how big of a deal this is for me, that she will lose me if she doesn't change, and that the possibility of divorce is real. I do not think she will ever get those messages while I am acting like things are okay. I guess there is the chance that I will just be pushing her further away while doing the 180, but I think the risk is worth it as I don't have a lot more lose at this point. Well, we had a meeting with MC-1 today. What a disaster. My wife aired her list of grievances related to the controls, restrictions, and oversight in place right now. Feels like she is being treated like less than a person. I'm her parole office, not a husband. Can't live with the lack of dignity and respect. Can't live with me believing her to be a deceitful liar. Fear of having recording devices in the house. The string of ultimatums. Do this or else she's gone. And a few other things that I can't think of at the moment. She says she did what I wanted, and now we should just be moving forward. She acknowledges that this is her fault, that she did things wrong, never meant to hurt me, sorry for hurting me, etc., but offered no details on what exactly she did wrong. She also made a point to state that she didn't hide contact as I knew they were emailing and I knew they had FaceTime contact, still basically denying it was an affair. She was part angry, part emotional about the hurt she has caused, and was crying and upset about the lack of trust and respect I have for her right now. And if I think so little of her that she could be dishonest, then we've already lost everything. Whether a ploy or not, she dutifully played the part of I can't live under these circumstances. But whatever, the only restrictions I have on her devices is to disable FaceTime and mail apps. She can still get to webmail, and prevent installing new apps, so she can't install Skype. I also reserve the right to check on her text messages and browsing history. Get this, the MC was totally on her side. I was accused of acting self-righteous, that the controls were over the top and more than MC had ever heard of, and that I might have a disorder which is causing the need for such control. MC also believes that the betrayer only has to reveal with whom Thea was with and who else knows. So, now I know why my wife suddenly liked the MC so much. My wife and MC would have me believe I am pushing her away, and that will be the final straw. From my perspective, I am not okay with the whole thing being swept under the rug. It is great that my wife has ended contact, so far as I know, but I am not willing to move forward until she opens up about what happened. She lied in some form or another for 1 year and wants me to just move forward without her offering any real acknowledgement of what happened. She has shown no remorse for her actions with other man and no real sign that she gets the damage an emotional affair causes. Am I just being stubborn on insisting that she gets it and talks about everything that happened? I am wrong to draw this line and force another ultimatum. I feel it is the least she can do to make up for the damage she has done. She should be doing everything in her power to try to make me feel safe and to try to earn back trust. If she keeps her heels dug in where they are now, things will likely be blown completely apart by the time the fog has lifted. So, I need to get through to MC-2 and hope that she has a clue. At this point, I doubt my wife will be very willing to see someone else. Currently, I believe that my wife's top 2 LLs are quality time and acts of service. Words of affirmation and physical touch also resonate with her, so they are not too far behind. QT and acts of service both require time and energy on my part. Between effort at work, with the kids, I coach both of their soccer teams. I have not done a good job making time to meet her needs. I have more to do than time allows at work and am in the same boat when I get home. If we were to add some recreational time together and I get some projects done at home, things would improve greatly for my wife. I am working on backing off work hours, so I'll have more time at home, though it is not a real pleasant place to be at the moment. I don't know how quickly she can meet my needs. She's still pretty, but it will take a while to lose significant weight. Right now she even covers her stomach during bonding. The affection and cheery attitude can't just material right away either. Exercising together hasn't been much of an option. I'm pretty athletic and my wife is zero athletic. Before kids, we would go on long group bike rides, 20 to 25 miles, which was fairly leisurely for me but a good workout for her. This just hasn't been an option with young kids around. She doesn't have to work, so she should be able to find plenty of time to exercise in some form if she was motivated enough. If she could take up running, we would at least have a common activity we share experiences with. What my wife needs is something qualified to help her start seeing the light. Maybe she just needs more time. While it may not matter who defines what is an emotional affair, getting my wife to accept, to herself to start with, the magnitude of what she had done would be a huge step. If she still maintains denial of any major wrongdoing, then her resentment of me will only build while I am monitoring to verify NC and maintaining a 180. I can wait for a while, but my wife already seems to be ready to accept the potential of us splitting up. I can't say whether we'll still be together by the time she gets it. Wife and I had a long talk Saturday night. It was a rational conversation for the most part, with a few moments of emotional affair monster sprinkled in. We covered a lot of things which all kind of blur together, but I'll update on what I recall. She felt like talking, so I tried to make her feel safe to speak her mind without countering all of the comments she made. My wife is considering a separation. I think the real threat of divorce really changed things for my wife. She feels like she needs to be looking at contingency plans in case things go bad. I think the threat of divorce drove home the idea that I could move on without her, and her reaction has been to feel unwanted, unloved, as opposed to being driven to work to save the marriage. It turns out after the last MC session, my wife stopped by a couple of nearby apartments to check on rates. Right now, we both have a lot of resentment and consequently don't really like each other all that much at the moment. Though she sent the NC letter, I am still unhappy with how she's behaving, not showing remorse with her actions. I think she truly feels demeaned by the martial law I implemented following NC. My wife isn't hearing from me that I really want her to stay, and she fears that things won't work out even if we try. She doubts if I will ever really be happy with her. She wonders if I want to pursue having freedom to try to see if the grass is greener elsewhere. From her side, she says she doesn't see herself ever being with someone else. The separation would be some time apart to see if we would actually miss each other. My wife has a lot of fears at the moment, afraid that she may do something that I interpret in a negative way which would result in being the final straw. Afraid that there will be more threats, consequences, such as being cut off from BF. Afraid that I won't be able to forgive her. Afraid to tell me things about the emotional affair for fear it will result in more question and investigation. Basically, she's afraid of controlling behavior on my part. At the very end of the conversation, I asked her if she truly thought she'd had an affair. To my surprise, she said yes, mostly. She admitted from the perspective of having lied and kept secrets that she did have an affair. She's not ready to admit her level of emotional connection to other man. She also is not able to deal with the guilt, shame for having had an affair. She indicated how deep the knife goes whenever she has to admit it was an affair. In other words, if she is forced to come clean about everything, the pain from guilt will destroy her. Right now, she is not ready to be open about what happened, because she is afraid to really admit to herself what she's done. I assured her that I would be able to forgive her, but she said she wasn't sure she'd ever be able to forgive herself. After the conversation, it occurred to me how completely broken our relationship has become. It wasn't good before all of this started, and the 1.5 years of being enemies on the emotional affair has really crippled what was left. The wall between us has become so enormous that my wife has come to completely fear being open with me. It's to the point of each of wondering if we truly want to go forward together. The talk of separation was applicable even if we set aside the emotional affair. We go back to MC-1 today. I thought is that it may be helpful to continue some of the conversation we had over the weekend. Wife is willing to go to MC-2 next week. Meeting at MC-1 today went about like Saturday night at home. Similar topics, and wife had a similar trend of waves of sadness, cry, and a little anger. She basically loses it when it comes to speaking of hurting me for so long, and how that is contrary to everything she believes in. To me, the depth of her pain when acknowledging this speaks to what level of betrayal she is aware of internally but not ready to disclose to me. For me, I have been very unemotional in the meetings. At one point the MC asked me what I was feeling, right after my wife started getting upset, and I basically had to answer nothing. I am in agreement that separation is a bad idea. She plays it off as thinking that I don't want her and that I'll be happier without her. She has mentioned this in the past even before the emotional affair. My instinct, probably the wrong one, is to take her at her word as opposed to viewing it as a ploy to get back with other men. I find myself struggling to truly treat her as an addict. She has hidden the emotionally attached side of herself from me so well, I find it hard to recognize some of her behaviors as simply trying to manipulate me. Having a MC that sympathizes with my wife doesn't help. Do her behaviors match perfectly with all the other WS's? In other words, she's not special, she behaves like everybody else in her position, and don't believe what she tells me. There is another reason that a separation is a bad idea. My wife is correct in thinking that there is a part of me that is thinking the grass would be greener elsewhere. I have had some sense of disappointment in her for a lot of years. It is hard to get married to so young and have both people turn out the way the other expects, needs. So, a separation would likely provide me an opportunity to have some freedom, and I doubt that I would come back saying how much I miss her. A separation would very likely be the end of us. Having kids is a complicating factor. I continue to struggle with trying to convince myself that choosing my needs first over them is best. I guess I am not far enough along in the nice guy reformation to get past this point. My comment: she was looking outside her marriage to fulfill her needs, yet her perspective was that she was not making her needs a priority. Bud, look out for this one. What do you think is going to happen when she starts consciously putting herself first? Part 3 ending coming tomorrow morning. Sub to catch the latest ending.